Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Well, we're not enrolled yet.
Okay. Are we going to start at the test centre again?
No, we'll start here.
Okay.
Yeah, so what would you like to cover today?
So I think we should look at pedestrian crossings, and you're about 6 weeks away from test.
Okay, so you want me to do pedestrian crossings at a train level, yeah?
Yes, please.
Yeah? Yeah, so is there anything in particular you worry about?
I'm worried that I might not remember to discuss handing back the ownership to you after I've prompted you a few times. I'm also just worried that I might not remember.
What do you mean by that?
So if you commit an error and then we pull over and we discuss what the error
safety
was.
critical incident.
Yeah, safety critical incident.
How did you know I was going to commit one of them?
So I'm just worried that I will forget to have the discussion about ownership before we carry on, before I let you do it on your own again, because I've forgotten that in the past.
Yeah, so don't worry. If that happens, I'll commit a role and discuss that with you.
Okay.
Anything else you're worried about?
Sometimes I don't ask enough questions about the dangers and what would happen and things.
Give me an example.
So if you had stopped on a pedestrian crossing, in queuing traffic, I would ask you what the dangers are of that.
Well, you do appreciate, because I'm a full licence holder, I can't actually stop on a pedestrian crossing.
No.
Because I'm going to get points on my licence.
Yeah.
Do you mean asking me, Q&A me on why I should not stop on a crossing?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm not going to put my licence at risk just to
prove a point.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't expect you to.
Yeah. We can swap seats and you can do it if you want.
Yeah. So yeah, it's remembering the correct Q&A questions and things.
Right. So pedestrian crossings.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at a trained level. As you say, testing about 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I don't know who told you that, but I was trying to keep it a secret. Yeah, so I go on the roll.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Tony. So we said we would look at pedestrian crossings this lesson. Are you still happy to look at those today?
I am. Yeah.
Okay. How confident do you feel on pedestrian crossings on a scale of 1 to 10 at the moment?
About 9.5.
Okay. So what would it take to get you up to that all important 10? Do you think?
You always told me never to give myself 10, because that's something I should always be aiming for.
Yeah.
After I pass my driving test, that you should always try to improve your driving. But I'd like to get to 9 3/4.
Okay. Good. So would you like to talk me through your approach to pedestrian crossings, just so that we can check what you're doing and
Spot the crossing, check your mirrors, scan. Anybody standing there, you stop.
Yeah. So how much help would you like from me on pedestrian
I'll do
crossings?
them on my own.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I expect you to take control of the car at all times. If, however, I have to use my dual controls or grab the wheel in an emergency, I'll pull you over afterwards and we'll discuss what happened. Okay.
Okay. And then just out of roll then, how do you feel about this subject then? At this level.
So you said out of roll. So you asking me as the instructor, or are you
No, I'm asking
telling
you
me
as
to tell you?
As my PDI.
How do I feel about the subject?
Yeah. At this level.
Yeah, I think I'm fairly confident, because I know that I need to just ask you a few questions to check your understanding of the topic.
Right.
And I know that I need to not come in with any prompts, because that would be over instructing, and just look out for any errors. So I could perhaps ask you a couple of questions before we set off, just to check your understanding, maybe. Would that be a good idea? Just to say, perhaps, what are the two different types of crossings, pedestrian crossings?
Yeah, and I have seen it work quite well where the PDI has asked the pupil would they like to talk about what they see ahead,
Yeah.
commentary driving.
Right, okay. So that's what I meant when I said, would you like to talk through what you're going to check and things like that? So shall I call it commentary driving then?
Yeah, or call it whatever you like, but providing your pupil knows what it means.
Okay.
Yeah. Leave out the word consequences, yeah?
Yeah, that was only because when I've asked the question, what are the dangers of that? And then in the past you've said, right, you still need to ask another question. I feel like that, to me, is telling me what the consequence is of committing that error. So that's just my way of remembering that I've still got a question left to ask.
Yeah, consequences is something that when we used to do the preset tests, examiners used to hear all the time, yeah?
Right, okay.
But you're going to remember, you're going to be teaching some people who might not even know what consequences mean, yeah?
Right, okay. So just stick with dangers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Keep it simple.
Okay.
Kiss.
Keep it simple.
We won't add the last one on.
Yeah.
Alright. So shall I go on the roll?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Okay, Tony, so would you like to talk me through your approach to pedestrian crossings?
Yeah, yeah.
Just give me a talk through, yeah? Okay, so before we set off, what are the two different types of pedestrian crossings that we can come across?
Controlled and uncontrolled.
Okay, and what's an example of an uncontrolled pedestrian crossing?
The zebra ones.
Mm-hmm. And what do remind me what the zigzag lines mean on the road?
You mustn't park and you mustn't overtake.
Okay, and what's the danger of overtaking on that crossing, on those zigzag lines?
The vehicle they're overtaking could be stopped at the crossing to let somebody cross.
Yeah, and what are the dangers of that?
Well, if a pedestrian stepping off the pavement, they might not see me.
Yeah, exactly. Good, okay. So I expect you to take control of the car at all times. But if I need to use the dual controls or control the steering at any time, I'll pull you over and we'll discuss what happened, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you're ready, we'll move off.
Turn left out of the garage.
And we can turn left out of the garage, please, Tony.
Oh, do I have to give way to them?
So, Tony, yes, what do you think? Do you think you need to give way to pedestrians?
It's a pavement, isn't it?
Yeah, good, well done.
Parking mode off.
Roundabout left.
For the roundabout, we're going to turn left.
Oh, I see beacons on black and white poles. That's uncontrolled crossing.
Yeah.
Checking my mirror. My view to the left is restricted, so I'm just using off of it.
Good.
I'm scanning, there's nobody standing there.
Excellent, well done. Mhm.
I'll just try and get inside my head a bit.
Okay.
And find out what I know instead of just
So
sitting there.
what type of crossing do we have up ahead here, Tony?
Oh, it's not. It's a set of traffic lights with a built-in pedestrian element.
So what sequence do you expect the lights to have here?
Normal. Out of roll. What I meant by get inside my head is get inside my head about we don't have to have a crossing in front of us for you to ask me questions.
Right, okay. So Tony, if there was some pedestrians stood on the pavement here, would you beckon them across the road?
No, you told me ages ago not to do that.
And why is that important?
Because they might be so busy saying thank you to me that they don't look the other way and get run over.
Exactly. Good, well done.
Oh, I see it crossing ahead in the distance. Checking my mirror. Scanning. Again, my view is a bit restricted. Could be a child there.
Yep.
Easy enough for me. There's nobody there.
Good, well done. And what about if you're near a school? What sort of crossing might you expect to find around there?
I think if it's school going in time or school crossing ahead, mirror, scanning, lovely.
Good, well done.
If it's school in time or school out time, you normally get a lollipop person.
Yep, that's correct.
And turning right.
And we're going to turn right, please.
Oh, I see a control crossing. But I can see by the box on the right that the little red light's not on, so he hasn't pressed the button and walked away.
Correct. And what would you do if there were pedestrians already crossing in the road up ahead?
I'd slow down and let them go.
And why is that?
You can't run them over, can you?
No. So do they have priority then?
But yeah. Otherwise you kill them.
Yeah, that's correct.
Straight on. So I'd slow down and let them go.
Yeah, good. So we're going to go straight on here.
Oh, I see a cross on the other side.
Well spotted.
My mirror's scanning. So just out of roll. Listen to the answers carefully. You asked me a question back there, yeah?
Yeah.
And the answer I gave you was I'd slow down and let them cross, yeah?
Yeah.
What do we do?
So you didn't say I need to check my mirrors first and then slow down.
So you were listening.
So I've assumed that you would just check your mirrors before you slow down.
Yeah.
So Tony, before you slow down for a pedestrian, what do you need to do before that?
Oh, I see a cross in the head. Check the mirrors. Scanning. Well, I check the mirrors, but I don't really see the point anyway. It's anybody standing there or they step on the cross and you've got to stop anyway, haven't you?
But it's the same approach to all hazards, isn't it?
I see another crossing.
It's the same approach to a pedestrian crossing or someone crossing the road. For example, there's someone crossing the road up
Yeah,
there.
but it doesn't matter if somebody behind me or not. If somebody's crossing at the crossing, I'm going to stop anyway.
But what if there's someone following very closely behind you?
I've still got to stop, haven't I? Turning left.
And we're going to turn left at the lights.
I still have to stop anyway, haven't I?
You would, but what if there was someone following really closely behind you? What could you do to give them a bit more warning?
Oh, my brother does a brake test on them.
Right, what does that mean?
He brakes really hard
So,
and then accelerates.
so what could be the dangers of braking hard if there was someone close behind you?
I don't know, I always spill my coffee when he does it.
Besides spilling your coffee, think of any other dangers?
The people seem to get irritated at him.
Right.
But they're the ones in the wrong because they're driving too close, aren't they?
Yeah, they shouldn't be driving as close to you as they are. But what could you do to make it safer in that situation?
I suppose you could put your foot gently on the brake a bit earlier,
Yeah,
which would put the brake lights on, wouldn't it?
yeah. And what about your...
Oh, I see a crossing there.
Yeah, good, well done. I'll let you do this first.
He's not too close to me.
He's not, no. And what about the distance between you and the car in front? What could you do with that? We're going to go straight on at this roundabout. And straight on at the next roundabout, please.
Turning right.
And we're going to turn right at this roundabout, please.
Oh, I see beacons flashing.
Yep.
On control crossing. Mirrors. Scanning.
So, as well as braking a bit earlier, as you mentioned, we're going to take the next left, please, Tony. So, as well as braking a bit earlier to warn the car behind you that's following closely behind, what could you do between your car and the distance between your car and the car in front of you? Is there anything you could do there?
Well, around town, I always keep a safe distance from the vehicle in front anyway.
Yeah, good. Why is that important?
But if they stop, I've got to be able to stop, haven't I?
Yep. Good mirrors, well done.
And turning left.
I'm going to turn left here.
And we're going to turn left.
I'm going to turn left. So, Tony, do you know the difference between a pelican and a puffin crossing?
I always get a bit confused with the names. I know one of them's got a flashing amber.
Yeah. So that one's the pelican.
It's really that important to know the names. I know about the flashing amber.
I guess the main thing is if you know the meaning of the flashing amber.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Can you remind me what it means?
Yeah, of course I can.
Go on then.
I was just dealing with the junction.
Yeah, that's okay.
And turning right.
And we're going to turn right, please. Okay, Tony, could you pull over on the left when it's safe to do so, please?
Yeah, I was going to answer your question. Yeah, the flashing amber means I can go providing there's nobody on the crossing.
Yes, exactly. Very good. Thank you. Okay, so you had signalling a very good time there. Your position in the road was good. You had very good observations and use of mirrors.
Oh, thanks.
But just back there, before we approached that junction, can you remember what you did just before you turned?
Looked ahead, saw a safe gap, rechecked my mirrors and got on with it.
Did you notice that you steered your wheels all the way to the right?
Yeah.
What was the reason for that?
because I was watching Formula One this morning,
Okay.
and Lewis Hamilton, when he's on pole, he always turns in the direction he wants to get there quickly.
Right, okay. So, can you imagine cars coming towards you? How do you think they would feel if they could see that your wheels were turned towards them?
Well, I doubt they think I'm Lewis Hamilton out on driving around St Albans.
How do you think it would make them feel?
I noticed he did lift off a bit. I suppose he might stop.
Yeah. So what would the danger of that be?
Yeah, I suppose if somebody's behind him, they might not be expecting him to stop.
Yeah. And what would happen then?
They might run in the back of him.
Yeah. And what about if a car came up behind you and ran into you?
Cool, you're a bundle of joy, aren't you? I'd get whiplash.
Anything else?
You'd get whiplash as well.
Yeah. What would happen to the car?
Damage.
So think about if someone hits you from behind and your
Yeah.
wheels are turned to the right.
Oh, you mean
Where's
where
your
would the car go?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, never thought of that. It'd shoot across front of the other vehicles, wouldn't
Right. And what would that cause?
it? I think probably we'd be having a dinner at Luton and Dunster Hospital tonight, wouldn't we?
I think you're probably
Throw a
right.
straw.
Yes. So can you now see that that's a potentially a very dangerous thing to do?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how
Damn that Lewis Hamilton.
so how can we avoid that from happening? Do you think?
Stop watching Formula One and keep the wheels straight.
Yes. So keep the wheels straight.
Mm.
Because imagine how you would feel if you could see a car with its wheels turned all the way towards you. So
Yeah, I'd probably be a bit worried, yeah.
yeah. So next time we're approaching a junction turning right. Oh, sorry. Before I say that, actually no, that's right. How much help would you like from me next time we're approaching a junction turning right?
Prompt.
A prompt? Okay, I can do that. Okay, so just before we set off, I'd expect you to take control of the...
Yeah, but we're doing pedestrian crossings today, aren't we?
Oh, sorry. We did say we would look at pedestrian crossings today. However, because that was quite a dangerous incident, I think I'd like us to change the lesson plan to focus on approaching junctions turning right for now. And then once you've built your confidence up and you've improved on that, we can then switch back to pedestrian crossings afterwards. Would that be okay?
Yeah, I'm not too sure I want to change my lesson plan.
Well, I think we need to, because that was such a potential dangerous situation, yeah? It was a critical situation.
So you're saying we're definitely changing the lesson plan?
We're definitely changing the lesson plan, yeah.
Pretty bossy, isn't it?
So I expect you to take control of the vehicle at all times, but if I have to use my pedals or the steering in an emergency, I will do, and then I'll pull you over and we'll discuss what happened. Okay?
Yep.
Okay, so when you're ready, Tony, we'll move off. Good observations, well done.
Next on the left.
We're going to take the next turning on the left, Tony.
Take the next on the right, just past the white car there.
We're going to take the next turning on the right, Tony, just past this white car on the right. So Tony, how are you going to keep your steering as we approach this junction?
I'm not going to turn, I'm going to keep it straight.
Okay, good. Lovely, well done. Why is it important to keep your wheels straight, Tony, on emerging a junction like that? Sorry, approaching a junction.
In case I frighten any oncoming traffic and they brake and get hit from the rear, or somebody hits us at the rear, and that would push us into the oncoming traffic.
Exactly, good, well done.
End of the road, left.
End of the road, we're going to turn left.
Roundabout left.
At the roundabout, we're going to turn left.
Turning right.
We're going to take the next turning on the right, Tony. So remind me, how are you going to keep your steering just before we
Straight.
turn? Good, well done. And why is it important to keep your wheels straight?
In case I frighten somebody coming towards me because they see my wheels turned and they brake and get hit up the rear. And if somebody behind me runs in the back of me, they push me into the oncoming traffic.
Good, well done.
And we're going to turn left.
At this junction, we're going to turn left. What hazards could you anticipate down this road, Tony?
That car could have moved away.
Yeah.
And turning right.
And we're going to take the next right, please, Tony. And tell me how you're going to keep your wheels, your steering?
Straight.
Good. Good, well done. So, Tony, would you like to take back the ownership now of... Sorry, before I say that, why is it important that we keep our wheels straight?
Oh, in case, I'll just do this first.
Yeah, good idea.
Might pull out one.
Yep.
Yeah, in case a vehicle coming towards me gets frightened and brakes and gets hit by a 40 tonne lorry from behind, turning
Exactly.
right.
I'm going to turn right here,
And
Tony.
if I get hit from behind, I'll go straight and I won't go into the oncoming traffic.
Good, well done. So Tony, would you now like to take ownership back of approaching junctions turning right?
Yeah, just watch me on the next one. I think it should
Okay.
be okay. 30 along here, isn't it?
It is, but do you think that's an appropriate speed for this road?
No, that's why I'm doing 18.
Yeah, and why is that?
Well, I haven't got much room either side. If somebody was to open the door or a car move away or a pedestrian walk out, I need time to react, don't I?
Yeah,
And turning right.
and we're going to turn right.
Okay, well, straight.
Excellent, Tony, well done.
And we're going to pull in on the left.
And we're going to pull in on the left, please, Tony. So what I would have then said was, what are signs that you can see of vehicles that might mean that they're about to pull off or something? You know, if there's any lights on the cars, if there's someone's just got into a vehicle, perhaps. But because we had the turning coming up, I'll let you deal with that first.
I'll commit a roll now, yeah?
Okay.
Yeah?
Mhm.
Yeah, I gave you a clue there, didn't I?
About the...
About the speed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you need to get to a point where you don't need those clues, yeah?
So I should have said to you, what's the speed of this road,
Yeah.
and do you think it's appropriate?
What you're trying to do is to get inside my head
Mm-hmm.
and find out what I know, bits I don't know, then you can fill in the blanks, yeah?
Yeah.
That might have just been a fluke, mightn't it? I might have just done 18 there because
Yeah.
I just come out of a turning, yeah?
I think I get so obsessed with the subject that we're focusing on that I don't ask you questions about other subjects at the same time.
Well, coming down the road there, you asked, you saw the white car parked on the right.
Mm-hmm.
You saw it lights on, so I told you there was somebody in the car.
Yeah.
The timing of the question
It was too late.
was way too late.
Yeah. Yeah.
By the time I started to answer,
We'd gone
I
past
was
it.
already gone past it, yeah?
Yeah.
So you want to look right down the end of the road,
Mm-hmm.
yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And because, don't forget Q&A, the timing is the important thing, yeah?
Okay.
No good asking a question that your pupil hasn't got time to answer, yeah?
No. Yeah, absolutely.
But on the plus side, well done for not just prompting me once on the approach to the right-hand turns.
Yeah.
You didn't assume. You came back and checked
Mm-hmm.
a few times before asking me to take it back, yeah?
Okay.
It could have been a fluke, couldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Mhm.
Be a little bit more positive. It felt like with the lesson change plan that I could have talked you out of it quite easily if I'd have been a pupil who's been used to getting his own way.
Right, okay.
Yeah?
Yeah. So be a bit more stern with what the lesson plan
Oh, I
changes.
said be stern, but just choose your words more carefully.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you say to your pupil, "It might be a good idea if we change your lesson plan," we are changing the lesson plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's client-centered learning, not client-centered led.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The lesson plan needed changing there. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, so be careful. I mean, you've been out with some students now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you come across any of them that will take advantage of that and push you to stick to your guns now and to stick to the subject that
That we've agreed to initially.
I
Yeah.
planned for you.
Mm-hmm. No, I've not had that yet, actually.
Yeah, it will come.
Yeah.
Yeah, it will come. Really good stuff there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the way when you pulled me over, you didn't go straight into what I'd done wrong. You gave me a
Mhm.
bit of praise on the mirrors, the signal, the position, and the speed,
Okay.
and that just softens the blow a bit. Yeah.
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 Because otherwise it will knock your confidence, won't it?
Yeah. Any questions on it?
No, I think another area that I struggle with, you know, when you said you need to look right down the road, I think I'm too busy thinking of looking at you, checking you're using your mirrors and you're in the right gear, but I need to just constantly look between the two, don't I?
Well, I'm looking down the road now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I see a van on the right hand side,
Yeah.
the other side of the crossroads, and I see lights on.
Mm-hmm.
So if I was sitting in your seat,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you can see it from your seat.
I can see the top of the van, but I've
Yeah.
not seen any lights.
Yeah, there's lights on. So if I was in your seat,
Mm-hmm.
that would be triggering my brain if I was with a pupil. Yeah.
Yeah. So would I say to you, Tony, what hazard do you see ahead? Or what do you expect that vehicle to do?
you know, what you're thinking about that white van.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. Dig a bit deeper. At the start, I was giving you a commentary on the pedestrian crossings.
Yeah.
So I'm checking the mirror, yeah?
Mhm.
You seem very reluctant to dig a bit deeper and find out exactly, that I know what I was talking about.
Okay.
Why was it important to check the mirror?
Mhm.
And in the end I said to you, well, what's the point of checking the mirror anyway? If somebody standing at the crossing or walks onto the crossing, they've got to stop anyway, yeah?
Yeah.
It's getting that full picture all around you.
Mhm.
And I've noticed a couple of times now when you've asked me a question, I think the question was, what would you do if pedestrians walked out onto the road?
Yeah.
I said I'd slow down.
Yeah. You didn't say you'd check your mirrors first.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
just come back and say, what would you do before you slow down?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
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 Any other questions?
Don't think so.
So what were your goals at the beginning of this session? Your goals, not mine.
My goals were to make sure that I've confirmed or agreed handing back the ownership before, once we've dealt with a potential hazard or a potential incident. And I think I did that.
Yes, I agree.
And the other goal was to make sure I ask the appropriate Q&A questions. And I think I did ask the right questions, but some of them I didn't ask in good time.
It's very common. Most PDIs, they sit there and take the subject that we had planned to cover, pedestrian crossings, yeah? They sit there and they think, I can't ask any questions until there's a pedestrian crossing in view.
Right. Yeah.
All you're trying to do is check my knowledge.
Mhm.
There's no pedestrian crossings between here and the very end of this road, which is about a mile away.
Mhm.
That doesn't stop you asking me, what must you not do within the zigzag lines?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That doesn't stop you asking me, would it be okay in slow moving traffic to stop
On the crossing.
on the crossing?
Mhm.
Yeah?
Yeah.
In the same way, when we were turning right back here, you asked me what I'm going to do with the wheel,
Mhm.
but was there anybody coming towards me?
No.
So therefore, we can simulate the situation.
Oh, right. So I can say, right, Tony, what would you do if there was a car coming towards you? How would you keep your steering?
Yeah, but I'm saying we don't have to be in the situation
Mhm.
of having a pedestrian crossing in front of us
Yeah.
for you to get inside my head, yeah?
So I could say, well, what would you do if there was a pedestrian in the road up ahead? Or
Yeah,
if there was a
or-
pedestrian on the crossing, what would you do? Or if there was someone right up behind you?
Or what does a flashing amber light mean on a...
Yeah. On a pelican. Yeah.
Yeah?
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm not a great big believer that the names are that important, yeah?
Mhm.
As long as your pupil understands what the light sequence
Exactly.
means, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's more important, yeah?
Mhm. Yeah.
Right, I'll get those cameras up for us.
Okay.
Before you swear. You were very good, you didn't swear once on camera.
I didn't.
Yeah.